This episode is all about community. We take a look at a pair of beautiful and very limited special release decks by one of my favorite designers. Plus, we announce the winners of the composition deck and the special signed blue parlor prototype deck giveaways. Keep it right here. One of the best aspects ushered in by this age of social media is the ease of community building. In fact, it used to be that you had to travel far and wide to conferences and conventions in order to meet and mingle with like-minded enthusiasts. Although conventions still exist to bring folks together, like the 52 Plus Joker convention coming up in October in Charlotte, North Carolina, the majority of the introduction work is already done through the power of the internet. Social media is, of course, one way to do it. In fact, I like to think of this channel as a community. In fact, I think of it as a strong one at that. But online forums like Reddit are the places where the most hardcore and dedicated dwell. One of those forums, UnitedCardists.com, was really the place where I first learned of some of my favorite deck projects of the last few years. In fact, United Cardists, we'll call it UC for short, is in many ways responsible for the decks profiled in this episode. But first, on the subject of community building, the modest success of the last couple of videos on this channel has resulted in an influx of a bunch of new viewers. In fact, if you count yourself among that number, well, thank you and welcome. My name is TheGentlemanWake, and we hope this video will compel you to like, subscribe, and ring that notification bell if you haven't already. If you're a TGW veteran, then you know I already appreciate you. This community of card enthusiasts is the reason this channel has become the go-to place for celebrating everything great about playing cards. Let's take a look at the Nouveau decks. This is the United Cardists 2018 commemorative deck release, the Nouveau decks by designer Rick Davidson, part of a series of decks produced yearly by Mike Radtlige, owner of the United Cardists forum. Some previous entries in the series include the Nouveau decks by designer Karin Yan, the Avant-Garde decks from the Edgy Brothers, and Lotrek's Grotesque, which was the 2014 offering. Like all previous United Cardists commemorative decks in years prior, the production of these cards was made possible through successful crowdfunding sourced through Kickstarter. This 2018 edition raised 39,056 New Zealand dollars, which, using conversion rates as of the making of this video, convert to about $25,000 US. The decks come in 4 different variant editions: a green Viridi Standard Edition, a crimson and gold Arum Standard Edition, and 2 deluxe limited special signature editions of both. We'll talk about those a little later. The standard editions are really much more than standard. These are premium decks in premium tuck cases. The decks include hot stamped foil and embossing on premium white matte cardstock boxes. The 2 editions feature the same design on the front but in a mirrored orientation, which allows for displaying the decks side by side on a shelf. The copy on the front of the box advertises the cards as deluxe playing cards, fully custom and premium quality. The deck logo itself takes on a seal and half band style appearance, and behind it is a nicely detailed floral artwork. The bands on the front overhang on one side of the deck and form another complementary diptych design. The other sides also merge well and feature the United Cardists 2018 deck UC18 branding. The top of the decks include a small foil band element, and the bottom reads the traditional ad copy along with designer Rick Davidson's logo signature. The back of the boxes have a beautifully detailed monochromatic foil embossed approximation of the back design on the cards. We'll look at that in more detail in a moment. The extremely limited signature editions have a number of improvements made to the packaging. For one thing, both versions of the decks come housed in a protective acrylic carrot case, specifically designed to fit the wider profile of the signature editions. More on why these editions are wider in a second. The tuck boxes inside the cases feature silver foil printing, embossing, and a pearlescent paper that gives the deck a luxurious feel. The flap overhangs over the front of the box rather than being tucked into them. The flap is held in place by a beautiful metallic foil seal in the corresponding color of the edition. Each deck is signed, as the name implies, by Rick Davidson himself. He also hand-numbered each deck out of the edition size of 75. My set is marked with a matching 48 of 75. The tops and bottoms of the boxes feature additional foil coverage, and the bottom has the text "Designed, individually handcrafted, and issued by Rick Davidson." The sides feature no writing but give a hint to the signature edition's most interesting aspect and the reason the decks have a thicker profile. There's a color-tinted laser-etched acrylic plate within each deck that is made visible through the laser-cut cutaways on the back of the tuck case. Each plate is numbered with the corresponding number found on the front, made visible through a small window on the bottom right corner of the back of the tuck. The color plates peeking through the laser-cut windows works in tandem with silver foil printing to give another approximation of the back design. I know for a fact that the acrylic plates inside include the same approximation of the back design we see on the box lasered onto them, but you're gonna have to take my word for it. I decided to keep my signature edition sealed in their tuck cases, seeing as how the cards in the signature edition are the same as those within the standard tucks. It's an interesting idea to include the plates, however, and I assume that a more bold collector who might have opened their sets could actually use the plate as a card guard on the card table. Opening these standard boxes reveals a gorgeous foil reproduction of the back in the box. Green on the Viridi deck, gold on the Aurum. As far as the card backs, we finally get a good look at the intricate design featuring metallic inks. The card backs depict a two-way design that centers around an ornamented circle in the middle and two statue-like faces. There are some additional floral elements and architectural style frames surrounding the faces, all set within a white poker style border. Included within each deck are a blank card and a double backer. Two color swap jokers are included as well. They include the same circular element on the card backs, but the faces have been replaced with a woman with outstretched arms. Along the sides of each are our first glimpses of the custom pips. These are completely custom cards as mentioned, and the spot cards not only include a stylized font choice and unique placement, but the wonderful pips have been redesigned with an angular futuristic slant that will make more sense once we see the court cards and lore behind them. I especially like the 4-leaf club pips. The aces all include some additional gold metallic embellishments, and the ace of spades features a nice big dimensionalized spade pip, along with the Latin phrase attributed to René Descartes, cogito ergo sum, I think, therefore I am. The philosophical quote here is perhaps the first obvious indication of the deck's deeper lore. In fact, the name itself, de novo, is Latin as well, and when you translate it into English, it means from the beginning. Although I really think that in this case, a more appropriate reading of de novo is the English phrase beginning anew. This deck is an imagining of a new society, presumably one that's kind of risen from the ashes of a less successful one. So rather than tell the story of man from the beginning, I think Davidson is really kind of implying that this deck represents a do-over. I also don't think that, given the subject matter, that the choice of Viridi and Aurum, Latin for green and gold, are random choices either. In fact, there are allusions to both colors in the form of environmental references, categorized by green of course, and wealth, represented by gold. All of these ideas are cemented by what are some of my favorite court cards thus far of 2019. Before I show them to you, I should mention that each deck has a different version of the court cards, which actually is a great choice and makes both versions desirable beyond just owning two variant colors of the same deck. The Verity variant includes full-color versions of the quartz that include every detail in shading, and the Aurum version includes more stripped-down versions of the illustrations that pay homage to standard quartz with predominantly red, blue, and gold coloration. Regardless of version, the quartz are gorgeous and a brilliantly executed vision of an opulent future that has transcended beyond our current society, yet harkens back strongly on tradition. Look, this isn't to say that a new society like this is a utopia without conflict. In fact, each suit is defined by principal characteristics that kind of put them at odds with one or more of the others. The spades represent the Earthers, a potentially militant group of activists that will do anything to protect Mother Nature and her creatures. The king holds a sword, the Queen of Spades holds a finch in her hand. Interestingly, the Jack is here represented by a female, a more gender-inclusive choice that perhaps is more in line with naturalist views. The hearts represent the High Order, a sect of tech-savvy humans intent on using science and genetic manipulation to keep themselves on top. This is a more aristocratic feeling group that includes a fashionista, a scheming and androgynous queen, and a king that to me embodies a certain marvelous futurist with an iron heart. All he needs now is an arc reactor. Incidentally, Kickstarter backers also received a postcard-sized print of the Queen of Hearts on pearlescent paper, signed by the artist himself. The clubs represent the humanists, seemingly secular and steeped in tradition. This faction believes in natural humanity. The mutton-chopped king and the white-veiled queen gives me a somewhat Quakerish vibe. Finally, the diamonds represent the synths. Originally created by the High Order as servants, these artificial life forms have progressed beyond natural evolution into something more powerful. Designer Rick Davidson has pretty much outdone himself here. Gorgeous tuck cases, brilliant artwork, well-constructed lore. Honestly, this could all work together to land this deck a spot on my yearly top 10 come the end of the year. In fact, last year, Davidson designed one of my favorite decks of 2018, the Cobra deck, printed by Cardamundi. The Nouveau deck actually features a rather atypical choice in printer. See, these decks aren't printed by any of the big three, USPCC, Cardamundi, or EPCC. In fact, is it the big two now that Cardamundi agreed to purchase the USPCC? Whatever, it's a conversation for later. These decks were printed by Oath Playing Cards, owned and operated by Lotrek. Using a new process, these decks represent Lotrek's latest attempt at creating a standard style, stock, and finish that can compete with the big boys in terms of feel. There's no question of the quality of the printing itself. The colors are bright and the registration is flawless on my decks, at least. The stock and finish, however, do take a little getting used to. The decks handle quite a bit differently than USPCC or Cardamundi decks do. In fact, they feel a little bit more reminiscent, albeit better, to the products produced by the Chinese facilities used by Expert Playing Card Company or Legends. The stock is crisp and snappy, if a bit heavier than normal. Actually, this bodes well for durability, which is a good thing because farrowing the deck proved quite difficult. A softer paper might have easily been damaged. The finish does perform an admirable double duty, yielding decently smooth fans, yet providing good adhesion for packet cuts and flourishes. I think this actually represents a pretty good jumping off point for Lotrek, who is always experimenting with new printing techniques. In fact, I've mentioned it before that he's really worth praising for his constant drive to innovate. That's aside from being a master designer himself. There was also a dealer coin made available through the campaign that features the same dimensional spade pip as found on the Ace of Spades on one side and the face adorning the back design on the other. Although the Kickstarter campaign for these closed some time ago, in fact these decks were delayed quite a few times as Lotrek dealt with the growing pains of experimenting with a new printing process, they only just recently shipped about a month ago, a full 5 months into 2019 despite the 2018 in the deck name. Fortunately for folks watching this, the Nouveau decks are actually still available. Visit designer Rick Davidson's origincards.com where you can still order the standard editions. The signature editions are sold out and fetching some steep prices on the aftermarket, with some sets going up for as much as $300. Additionally, at first it seemed like the delay surrounding this 2018 offering would pretty much stifle any opportunity for a 2019 UC deck. The reports of that venture's demise are unfounded. Artist and designer Montesi has been tapped to create the 2019 offering, and he's already well down the path of designing the new deck. It will undoubtedly be offered via Kickstarter as soon as it's ready. To keep up with the progress of this new deck, make sure to visit the United Cardists forum. I'll leave a link to the specific thread in question in the description below. Before I announce the winners of the composition deck and the parlour signed prototype, I just want to say that there are a lot of new members of our community who maybe haven't had the chance to dig into the TheGentlemanWake archive. For the TGW community, if you guys were to recommend one video from my catalog of videos for new subscribers to watch, which one would it be? And if you are new, having just stumbled on this video for the first time, let me know how you found us in a comment below. Congrats to Blake Reynolds on winning the composition deck, and who correctly guessed my favorite subject in school was writing. Congrats to TJ Austria for winning the parlour signed prototype. He suggested a video collaboration with Chris Ramsey. In fact, TJ, we'd love that too. Maybe as a community, we should brainstorm some ways to help us get his attention. Blake and TJ, make sure to contact me via Instagram to claim your prizes. In fact, if you want to see my rather excellent impersonation of Chris Ramsey, if I do say so myself, you should check out this video right here. Don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already. As always, guys, it's been a pleasure to make content for you, and I hope to see you again here next time. I've been the Gentleman Wake. Thank you so much for watching.